Hi and welcome to The Nation. I'm GERARD RATNAM. We're joined by SITI Haji Abdul Rahman, Chief Executive Officer of the Tun Razak Foundation. Well, if you don't know what it is, we'll give you a lot of information on what it actually is. Today's topic is continuing Tun Razak's legacy of nation building, exploring how his vision for unity, rural development and inclusive growth continues to guide Malaysia. Hajar, thanks for doing this. Thanks for taking time off your busy schedule and for joining us right here in the studios to, of course, give us an understanding about Tun Razak and his vision. Now, to begin, maybe you could share with us the core mission of Yayasan Tun Razak or the Tun Razak Foundation and how it has evolved to remain relevant in Malaysia's current socio-economic landscape. Hajar.
Thank you, Gerard, for having me here today. So let me start by just saying that Tun Razak Foundation was established in 1976 under the Tun Razak Foundation Act. That also coincided with the year that he actually passed away. So next year will actually mark 50 years since Tun Razak's passing. So the mandate that we have is to perpetuate the good name of Tun Abdul Razak, the good work that he did and his deeds, and to promote mutual understanding locally and regionally, and to improve the standard of living for all citizens through education. And how we've actually translated that into the work that we do today is we focus on programs and initiatives that are relevant and meaningful for today's generation. And how we do that is by shaping citizens with good character through our leadership program. We also connect our shared history with our collective future through the engagement sessions that we organize, the seminars that we organize as well. And we also recognize and reward individual efforts in uplifting their own standard of living through the awards that we actually give out.
Right.
So essentially, how we see the foundation is as a living institution. We are 50 years old, but we're continually adapting and learning. But we are here essentially to encourage people to learn lessons from Tun Razak's legacy and to use him as sort of the guiding light to bring Malaysia to where it wants to be in the future.
How big is the team which you have currently at the foundation?
It's an incredibly small team, less than 5, but we are ambitious. And
ambitious
we are
how?
looking. Well, we're hoping to actually grow in literally within the next 1 year. We see next year as being quite a transformative year for us. So I was brought in as the CEO literally just a few months ago. So with that, we will hopefully grow the team accordingly so that we can introduce more programs, but also deepen the work that we're currently doing as well so we can really demonstrate impact.
So you say you were brought in a few months ago. Coming into a new setup, understanding, this is such a dynasty of an organization.
Yeah.
Now, understanding its ethos, its philosophy. Do you think you have a finger on the pulse with regards to understanding the ethos and philosophy of the foundation or the Tun Razak Foundation?
Well, I think we are very much defined by the act that we follow. So we do use that as sort of like our guiding light, and that helps us determine and focus on the work that we want to do. I am learning as I enter this role as well in terms of how we translate Tun Razak's values into our everyday work as well. I think so far in the last 50 years, the foundation has done that through and through. So it's just a question of taking it to the next phase of growth.
Right. The year is coming to an end. When you look back at 2025, what would you say were the foundation's most significant achievements, not just in numbers, but in terms of real community impact?
Yeah.
And I shouldn't be asking you this question because you just joined the foundation.
Yeah.
But what have you heard or what do you know and what information do you have about real community impact? Because that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah. I think for us as well, although we do recognize numbers are important, but we do focus on the individual story, the individual impact, and that comes through in the work that we do. So when we talk about achievements in the last 1 year, I think I can think of 3 that have been quite meaningful. The first one is our flagship program, which is the Tun Razak Foundation Leadership Program, which we've been running for 3 decades now. So actually this year marks our 30th year. So you can imagine 30 years of just shaping these students. And what the students essentially do are, these are the top performing students from across the nation. We bring them together for a 2-week immersion program. And this is where they get to strengthen their soft skills, they get to learn the values that defined our second Prime Minister, and hopefully to internalize those values. And I think what we found to be the most significant outcome is to connect them with a peer and mentor network that fundamentally transforms into lifelong friendships. And that comes in the form of the alumni network that we have. So we're very proud to have a very strong alumni network of about 1,500 people. And each year, in fact, when we organize this program, yes, the foundation takes the lead, we fund it, but the ones actually shaping it, curating it, are actually our alumni members. So they know firsthand what the students need, what they want, and they're best positioned to really ensure that we deliver on what on our intended outcomes for the program.
Right. Give us an idea of what this immersion or this immersive program is about. What kind of little activities are run within the program, which makes a big difference?
So there are 2 parts to the program. It's essentially a 2-week course. The first week is very much quite classroom based. So they will be taught soft skills in terms of public speaking. They will also be given the opportunity to have direct face-to-face interactions with CEOs, whether emerging or established CEOs. And they will also learn specific topics that are actually delivered by our alumni members as well. But part 2 is the one that actually comes in where they really strengthen their bonds with each other, because that's where we take them outside of their comfort zone, outside of the classroom setting, and into a jungle, into waterfall, and they really have to rely very much on each other to be able to get through the challenges we put in front of them. So you find that in this 2-week, what we have the tangible programs. What really comes out from it is what happens in between the classes. Right. What happens beyond the 9 to 5s, you know, while they're clamoring for.
Right. So do you check in with these students, those who are involved in the program, say 6 months after they've been through the program, you know, how have they grown 6 months after or a year after? Do you have surveys to see how these kids fare?
Yes. So
because one of the problems foundations have is scaling impact, and so that's why we always like to see how impactful are these programs after kids leave these programs.
So I think one measure that we found is by their continued interest in the alumni network and the membership. So they maintain a very strong network, which we have a strong relationship with. We do introduce tracer studies, obviously. So after 6 months, we ask them, hey, did you manage to secure the scholarships you were aiming for? After they've secured the scholarship, or the jobs that they've taken on. So as you can imagine, 30 years in, we know that a lot of our members are now doctors, professionals, some even in politics as well. And so many of them have taken on leadership roles, not only locally, but even regionally and internationally as well.
Right. I'd like to come back to that, talking about professionals who are members who are now professionals. But I also like to bring about, I don't know if we have a picture of this. Apparently there was a book launched last year.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that book?
So that book was actually launched by Sultan Nazrin last year. It was actually published by Press, and it really deep dives into different areas of the policies and that was introduced by Tun Razak during his time, and then translating those policies into how that would look today in terms of our political landscape, in terms of economy, so on and so forth.
Now, let's come back to challenges foundations face in scaling impact. What were the biggest hurdles, if you have any examples, your foundation faced in 2025, and how did the foundation, or the Tun Razak Foundation to be exacting, address them?
So as with any impact organization, I think reaching more people meaningfully is always our number one objective. We want to try and reach as many people meaningfully. We are blessed with an endowment fund, and that's enabled us to be able to continue and maintain the programs that we've had so far. But of course, with this endowment fund, it is finite and there are limitations. So in order for us to scale impact, we do fundamentally need to grow our funding as well as our people as well. We've also been fortunate that the last 50 years, the foundation has been guided by a very dedicated board of trustees. And they've largely kind of shaped the foundation to what it is today. But as our role evolves, as the foundation evolves and continues to learn and try and remain relevant to today's needs, that's when there is a recognition for us to kind of grow our team so that we can really meet those needs on the ground.
People romanticize stories in Malaysia like Viviana in Sabah. And then, here in the peninsula, we always like stories where an Indian boy from the estate comes out and makes something of himself, or a girl from the kampong, comes out and becomes someone. It's always been a Malaysian thing. It's always been one of the Malaysia Boleh stories now. And when you look at the ethos and philosophy or the legacy of Tun Razak, he's always want to go and work on rural development, talk to the people there. And I remember as a child seeing him in his white shirt on black and white TV, walk through the paddy fields and speak to people, things of that nature. That'll give you an idea as to how young I am. But having said that, how do you maintain these things within the program now? And especially moving into 2026, a big year for the foundation.
Yeah. So you touched on a really important point, and that is...
Was that a valid question, though?
It was certainly a valid question. You touched on a really important point. So our current leadership program does very much focus on top performing students across the nation. But there is a need moving forwards to also take into consideration other aspects of how to kind of push our society forward, how to push youth forward. And that's really bringing in elements of ensuring that there's inclusivity when it comes to the selection process. So that's why it is imperative for us to grow our programs so that we can achieve that and we can move towards that goal of not just elevating already the top performing students, but ensuring that we touch different levels of society who are nowhere near lacking in terms of capability, but maybe just in terms of opportunity. So I do see the role of the foundation needing to open up more opportunities to more people.
Right. So basically what I'm getting at is, what aspects of his leadership or philosophy are most embedded in the foundation's DNA.
Yeah.
You make sure whatever changes, that has to stay.
So Tun Razak was defined by his deep sense of duty to the nation, to his people. He was also fiercely loyal. I think if you talk to any of people who knew him directly, it's the one thing one characteristic that often comes out. And he also believed in the power of consultation, collaboration. So for us, those values do run deep within the foundation itself, and it also manifests in our alumni network as well. So we do recognize the importance of preserving and learning from our past and making it relevant for the future. And we're also committed to shaping leaders with good character and fortitude, embedded within the programs that we run. And I think most importantly is the partnerships and collaborations that we've actually established. Obviously, foundation is of a certain size, so we do rely on the partnerships and the collaborations we've had all these years with the educators, historians, and sister agencies to be able to kind of widen our impact. Yeah.
Now, Tun Razak's principles remain relevant to today's youth, especially given, how do you think it remains relevant? So I'll rephrase that. How do you think his principles remain relevant to today's youth, especially given our rapid change in social dynamics, and it's changing very quickly. Social media has brought that about. It's a can of worms we need to open at some point. But how do you ensure Tun Razak's principles remain relevant with today's youth, especially when you speak to them? Are they even interested to know?
Yeah. So, as a mother of two, obviously, any of the issues that keep cropping up, and they have been cropping up in the news lately, also impacts me directly as well. So I do take a certain particular interest to this topic. We know youth are growing up in an interconnected world. Everybody is connected, but at the same time, there's also more fragmentation than ever. We know that whatever challenges they face today and into the future, we're not just talking about issues of economy or what I view to be digital overkill, but there's also this question of moral fragility. And I think this is something that is not just something that you see in the West, but it's also reaching our shores as well. So for Tun Razak, also, although he's known as the architect of development, you remember him for all his physical contributions, but he's also defined by his humility, his service, and relentless focus on uplifting the people. And I think it's these kind of values, enduring values, that can become a compass for youth moving forward, so that they can really strengthen their core, strengthen their sense of self, and help them navigate through any challenges they may have in the future.
Right. Since coming in as the CEO, since taking the helm as the CEO a few months ago, do you think some things need to be evaluated, changed? As in, we talk a lot about the young, but as adults, a lot of adults need to relearn things or rethink unity. And I'd like to talk about the foundation's work within the Ministry of National Unity, and also, of course, I'm digressing because my producer is screaming in my ear, but the Ministry of Unity, there's a lot of work to be done. And when you talk about work, we're always talking about the young people. I think the old fogies need a bit of a refresher with regards to what national unity is, because a lot of us think that only the young people don't know this. The older people already have it down pat. And I think that we were sorely mistaken with regards to thinking about that. Now, where you are, do you see these programs opening up to people who were there, who lived during his time, and like stories they can tell about him? It's always about storytelling, isn't it?
It is always about storytelling. So although our focus has very much been on youth this entire time, but when we do open up seminars and we open up discussions touching on Tun Razak, the people we platform and profile are the people who have direct experience or are deeply knowledgeable about Tun Razak's history and legacy. And the audience that typically comes in isn't just the youth, it is people of different backgrounds, different age, different race, and they themselves are already interested in the stories that the panelists have to say. So that the panels, discussions that we organize, seminars we organize are the ones that help to bring to life his stories, his experiences, and hopefully what we hope is that through continuous dialogue, that's the one that will actually really have an impact, not just on the youth, but the broader public as well. But it's incremental steps, right? It's not something that can be a sweeping change, overnight.
Right. Now, with the unity agenda, do you think why the Tun Razak Foundation is uniquely positioned to fill in some gaps that need to be filled, and what are these gaps at this moment?
As a foundation, I think how we see ourselves is we are in a unique position to strengthen what we call the human fundamentals of unity. So when you talk about
human fundamentals of unity,
so we're talking about values, trust, relationships, character, so the human aspects of what makes a unified nation. So while the ministry maybe focuses on policies and programs at the national level, we bind people together from the bottom up. So you'll see ultimately you find that sweet spot between the top and the bottom, and that sweet spot in between. So whether it's how we see each other, how we work together, how we grow together. So I think this is where we can add distinct value. Also, because we tend to focus on the individual, this is where we have the opportunity to then change mindsets, embrace differences, and the willingness to build bridges rather than walls.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, looking ahead to 2026, we're all waiting for 2026. 2025
around the corner.
Has gone pretty quickly. Which upcoming programs or strategic priorities are you most excited about?
So 2026 marks 50 years since the passing of Tun Razak. 14th of January is the exact date. He actually left us in 1976. It also marks the Golden Jubilee of the Foundation. So to mark that occasion, we will have a year-long series of initiatives that we've lined up. I can share with you some of the signature projects we're hoping to roll out. And I think the intent behind that...
Sell.
And the intent behind that is to just spark meaningful conversations again, to reconnect Malaysians with his values, and to also use that opportunity to want to engage with the corporate sector as well in different sectors so that we can have the opportunity to expand our programs. So I think one of the highlights will be a documentary that we are producing together with an up-and-coming local director. His name is Yazid Puat. He actually put together the Road to Nationhood series of documentaries in the past. So we are hoping to release this documentary in the first quarter, and it will really focus on the time of Tun Razak prior to his premiership. So we're talking mid-60s to late 60s, which is also when Malaysia went through a bit of turmoil as well. So we're hoping to unravel that story a little bit more in the documentary, so that'll be coming out. We're also going to be publishing another book. So as you mentioned before, we had released a book last year. UN Press had released a book last year. But that was a little bit more academic nature. So this book that's coming up will be touching on leadership the Razak way. And the intent behind that is to introduce the values-led leadership traits that defined Tun Razak and make it easily digestible for the public to be able to learn from and hopefully embody themselves as well. Working together with Pahang Museum, we're also going to be having an exhibition.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if you've been to the
Pahang Museum. I wanted to ask why the Pahang Museum, but I know
it goes back to his roots, but I don't know if you've been to Pahang Museum. It's amazing museums over there. So they'll be hosting an exhibition there on Tun Razak, most likely prioritizing the early days when he was there.
Right. Now, very simple question for you, Hajar. Where do you see the Tun Razak Foundation in the next 5 years, especially in terms of unity, education, and nation-building agenda?
So we see ourselves as a values-led institution. We are going to be very much focused on promoting Tun Razak's values, as we see that as a compass that the whole nation can pick up on. And what we hope to do is really at the heart of this vision to develop a strong pipeline of young leaders as well, individuals anchored in character, integrity, and a deep sense of service. Beyond that is actually also potentially the transformation of the Tun Razak Memorial. So the memorial, we've just embarked on a project this year to study the memorial with the intent in the coming years to turn it into a living space and a destination. So this is actually in line with the nation's broader agenda to actually revitalize downtown Kuala Lumpur.
Right, fantastic. Now, we've got about a minute and a little bit left. What is your message to all of us Malaysians about the role we can play in carrying forward the spirit of Tun Razak's nation-building vision? And we need this so badly at this point.
That's a big question.
It is a big question.
Took quite a bit of time to think through.
We can have a part 2 if you like.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Tun Razak believed nation-building isn't something that's owned by one leader or owned by a group of politicians. It's something that is a shared responsibility for all Malaysians. So I think it is incumbent upon us to carry his vision forward, whether it is in how we treat each other, how we serve our communities, how we choose integrity over convenience. This is essentially how we can contribute to creating the Malaysia that we want to build in the future. And as you said, at a time when the world feels a little bit more divided and uncertain, I think his values of humility, putting people first, is really an opportunity for us to internalize and carry forward. And we do believe that nation building begins with small acts of responsibility and care.
Right. With that, Hajar, all the best and for 2026, and we hope you come back at the beginning of the year to remind us about the big celebration next year.
Yes.
Siti Hajar Abdul Rahman, Chief Executive Officer of the Tun Razak Foundation. That's all from us here at The Nation. Today we heard how Tun Abdul Razak's values still guide the work of building a fair and united Malaysia. His legacy continues through programs that support education, leadership and opportunities for Malaysians across the country. I'm GERARD. This has been The Nation. Thanks for watching and follow us for more in-depth conversations on the issues that truly matter right here on Bernama TV. Thank you.